CR101radio.com, podcasts, and more.
52. On eating our gifts. Over 20 years ago, a contractor told me a very interesting story of a man who had supervised work for a construction company for some years. Shortly before his retirement, he was asked to handle a small job, the construction of a new house. Feeling very sorry for himself that no fuss was being made over his coming retirement, the man cut corners ruthlessly on the job and pocketed the difference, having little regard for the fact that a barely passable job was the result. When the work was done, to his horror, he was handed the keys to the house. It was his retirement gift from an appreciative company. The man then had to live with his sin. In the biblical laws of sacrifice, the peace and thank offerings to God were presented before the Lord, and then much of it eaten by the worshipper and his family. Leviticus 3, 1-17. In other words, a man ate much of his gift to God. The requirement for all offerings was that they be the best of herd and of the field, without blemish. God rejected the idea that man could bring him leftovers and culls. Some of man's offerings man had to eat in part, which, among other things, made clear to the worshipper that what a man gave to God also came back to him. Today, all too many people feel that God is only entitled to the leftovers, the money, time, or things we have no need of. I can recall some years ago how many fine pastors, hard-working and godly men, got the leftovers from their parish. The furniture nobody wanted ended up at the manse. The clothing no one else could use was passed on to the pastor's family. God's work was all too often given only the leftovers of men's lives and possessions. Well, what are these churches getting now? The clergy today is largely made up of God's leftovers, men he does not regard as fit to use. In town and country, men are getting what God will not use, an ungodly generation of clergymen. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that also shall he reap. Galatians 6:7. We are reaping what we sowed and eating what we gave. The man who built a substandard house had to live in it, just as our generation is living in a world it helped to make. Only as God has priority in our lives, and only as His word is believed and obeyed, can we begin to expect His blessings. God has a habit of returning to men the gifts they give Him, and the results can be very unhappy for men.